Kia ora. Welcome to Friday the 14th of October 2022, my morning ramble. A little later in the morning because I slept in, which is a rare occurrence. If I sleep in, I mean really only an extra hour. So brain was racing last night, had a busy day at work and finished with some extra stuff, and as happens, and then after that, Dawn and I got to talking about some extra bits and pieces after dinner, and then we went to bed, and then my brain couldn't stop. So go figure. It is a thing. Anyways, it's a bit bright. Just bear with me a minute while I move up the hill here. Topic for this morning. Well, I got excited about gasifiers. And so in the wee hours of the morning, as you do when you can't sleep, I was out researching, methanol generators. We'd watched the distillation conversion process, dryer distillation specifically, not catalytic. But it's a relatively simple process to move from gasification to liquefaction, and this morning light is turning out to be hideous. So let's see if we can get I may not be rambling around so much today. Taking the dog out for a bit of a walk anyway. Anyway, so back on board. Wow, it's really bad. Right. Told you this was an amateur production. No makeup, no stunt doubles. And the lighting is all natural. God help us all. So yeah, gasifiers and gasification and all of those things. So where my brain went was, after doing some research on gasifiers, I guess, having never built one, hopefully will, is really how to distill methanol. And then the distillation process, the dry distillation, looks to be relatively straightforward. It is a fairly, at its most basic, it's really taking those gases that you would burn off and running them through the usual kind of copper tubing coil, getting rid of the water byproducts, because water is one of the byproducts, and then the rest is pretty much just methanol. And I'm sure that there's some extra purification stuff that needs to happen there, but the net result is basically you taking that syngas and effectively condensing it into its methanol component, which you should not drink because that's bad for you, very bad for you. You'll go blind in enough and you will die. Highly toxic. However, then what do you do with it? So my immediate thought was, wow, that's straightforward. You just basically find a generator that runs on methanol. Turns out that's not quite so straightforward. A lot of the quote-unquote green technologies are using methane fuel cells, and I haven't really gone into the details of that, and I'm sure there's some proprietary secrets, because there doesn't appear to be a lot of manufacturers doing it, and most of those seem to be out of Europe, ironically. Poetically at the moment, I don't know. The process, I guess, is some kind of catalytic process to convert the methanol into energy, because they do seem to be relatively low power output devices in terms of wattage, at least. I didn't check the overall specifications on it in terms of voltage and amperage and all those good things, but basically they're rating all their output in watts. The duration seems to be pretty good on those cells, but they also use some membranes, and I'm not quite sure how that actually functions. So anyway, long story short, that seems to be quite a complex technology. It may or may not be, I don't know. But certainly, using methanol, they are apparently looking more into it, because methanol doesn't just come from trees per per se. You can use it from coal and pretty much anything that actually has a carbon source, biomass in general. But anyway, back to the roundabout. Told you this is a ramble. So the trying to condense really some of the stuff I've been mulling about in my sleep to at least capture it in vlog format, so I can look back at it later and go, what the hell were you thinking? But anyway, methanol, using methanol. So you can dilute it, 60-40 I think is pretty common, methanol water, and use it in various purposes. A lot of people seem to, from what I can gather, seem to use it in internal combustion engines. And therefore you rig up your generator to that, and your engine basically runs, and then that effectively acts as a turbine, I guess, for generating your power. But that's an extra level of complexity. So then I started looking into synthetic fuels. So that's a rabbit hole. And I highly recommend this for putting you to sleep when it's like 2 something in the morning, and you've been lying there for a good 4+ hours trying to sleep, and then reading how to make methanol and various other stuff, and then you go down the rabbit hole. That's synthetic fuel. So synthetic fuel, there's a whole bunch of stuff you can do around this, but now we're getting into effectively catalytic reactors and a whole bunch of chemical processes that involve processing the methanol and then running it through various phases and then combining it, and ultimately the end result is something you can actually put in your car or a vehicle that at least has been modified to run it. I can't really comment too much on that because, to be honest, I fell asleep. But the yay for dense volumes on chemistry. But the it makes me wonder whether such a thing is actually possible in a limited format for off-grid. And I'll be up front, this isn't something that we have any plans to do at any moment in time at the moment. It's just interesting stuff that you kind of read about and others may have talked about on the interwebs and elsewhere. Kira. Hello. Stay out of here. It's a bit of rock. Okay. Geez, this conversation came to a close fast. The line of thinking is really, is this relatively simple to do, and simple being also a relative term, or is it something that really is kind of past the skills of pretty much anyone except a dedicated chemist? And ultimately, is that extra effort really worth it? And I'm going to look into some synthetic fuels and the catalyzer process. But the thought of kind of setting up a bunch of effectively mini reactors might be kind of well past this kid's skill set, at least. But you never know. Someone might have done something. The actual process of distilling the methanol itself is relatively straightforward and not expensive, and pretty much just uses everyday tools at its basic level. It's really, I guess I'm trying to summarize this because I'll probably move on to other things and other rambles. it's really an option that we have, or maybe should be considering, or parking, or at least maybe experiment with when we have some time, to give us another mechanism to create an additional source of fuel, even if that's only for heating, or for basic functions around the homestead. It may never be used to actually create power or anything like that, but you know, it's another arrow in your quiver. So yeah, probably visit this again once we've got some of the initial stuff out of the way, or a little more established. We're coming into winter, so I don't know that we're going to get a lot done actually on the property when the really inclement weather starts to kick in. We shall see. We shall see. Anyway, my apologies for the slight rambling this morning, for the extra rambling this morning, and hopefully there's some food for thought there. And that's probably all I'm going to talk about on methane and gasifiers and stuff for a little while, unless I can't sleep at 2 o'clock in the morning again, in which case you know what you're going to get. So yeah, to summarize this one in the previous video, gasifiers seem to be definitely, from what I can tell, a viable and relatively straightforward option if you have access to a lot of biomass. And the off product of that syngas can be relatively easily distilled into actual methanol, and that methanol can be stored and used for other purposes. It can be diluted, mixed with ethanols, and there's various combinations, vegetable oils and stuff. You can do things with it to make it usable for various purposes, except for direct power generation in a generator. That seems to be not an option at the moment. There may be some methanol driven generators, but nothing I could easily find. Whether this is something that you should be adding to your house, I know of at least one YouTube video where a guy's got his gasifier connected up to an internal combustion engine, but he's got quite a large generator kind of running things, and he is actually completely off grid with that, which is pretty cool. But you know, that's a scale and a lot of effort that we're not even remotely close to. So that falls into the cool idea, nice execution, pie in the sky kind of stuff. So anything that we'll probably do with this will definitely be fairly low scale. I'm thinking probably producing it for making methanol for heating, and then looking at some heating options. So anywho, and in case you're wondering where this was all driven, this was a link that I posted to my video yesterday. There's a guy, British guy, brilliant to watch. The guy's awesome. And he makes all this kind of stuff out of, you know, cans of vegetables and things like that, just stuff that's kind of not lying around the place. Well, some of it is lying around the place, but stuff that you can easily get your hands on, and working with tools that you can easily work with, both of which kind of tick boxes in my personal category. So anyway, that's all on that. Have a great day. Ramble again tomorrow. We'll see what today brings into my 3-day weekend, so no doubt there is some stuff, and I think we've got some rain on the radar, so probably today and tomorrow we'll be doing outdoorsy things, as one does. All right, take care, kia ora, bye-bye.